Hi, that was like the nicest thing. I hope somebody, oh good, it was recorded. I can show my children, show they'll really care. I have a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 16-year-old, so, and they're all girls. You can send me sympathy cards, it's fine. So I'm going to talk to you today about how to build a brand, and I'm going to try to figure out how to make this microphone work so I'm not, can y'all hear me okay? Okay, great. So branding, how to build a hot brand. That's Lynn's title. Thank you, Lynn, because I'm not good at titles. And the thing I want to say before I go any further is to follow all of this information at your own risk. Some of the things I might say are going to be really useful and applicable to you. Some of them are not. Some of them you're going to think this woman is stupid. What was Lynn talking about? And hopefully, if nothing else, you'll enjoy the pictures of the dogs and cats in the slide. It show if you hate the whole thing. But branding for us is a little bit different because, as Lynn mentioned, we are on the edge of Beverly Hills. So some of the examples might not ring true for you, but the principles should nonetheless. So what's branding? I came across a cute story because the difference between marketing, advertising, branding, they all sort of get mixed up. And so pretend you're at a party and you're single and you see an attractive person across the room. Marketing is you going over to the person and saying, hey, I'm a great date, want to go out. Advertising is your friend goes across the room and says, hey, she's a great date, you want to go out with her. And branding is he comes across the room and says to you, hey, I hear you're a great date, you want to go out. Now, I cleaned the joke up. It was not quite as kind when I read it, but you know. But that's branding, and that's what we're going to talk about. How do you get the guy to come across the room to ask you out? A couple of other definitions I really like is that branding is just your unique story that your customer tells about you, and that's the key part. You're going to tell the story to help your customer tell the story, but it's really about what they say about you, not what you're saying about yourself. Or as Jeff Bezos from Amazon says, it's the story people talk about when you're not in the room. So I think it's fun. I'm not at the gym as much as I used to be, and so people don't know who I am, which is really fantastic. They think my general manager is the owner, and they'll come in irate, and they're like, where's the guy with the glasses? I want to talk to the owner. I'm like, no problem. Come this way, ma'am. I'll take you right to his office. It's the best thing ever. But it's fun to walk through and hear people talk about JAG. And Lynn talked about in her speech the other day about a woman watching swim lessons, you know, calling, I don't know, the dad on the phone or whatever and talking about how wonderful the lesson was and how they were waving to the kid. And those are the moments that we all live for, right, is when we hear people talk. It's like when you hear somebody compliment your child and they don't know that you're the parent. You're like, maybe they're not such a little shit after all. Yay. And then my favorite business philosopher, Seth Godin. You all have a favorite business philosopher, right? If not, get one. He talks about branding in terms of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships. Can you see back to my pumpkin head? You can say, okay, good. He looked like he was straining. And what I really like about this is when you then think about like forming your brand via expectations, memories, stories, relationships, that's the stuff that you want to be thinking about and talking about with your staff when you're talking about what does it mean to brand. And it really boils down to this. Branding is trust. It is the short-term idea that people have about who you are and what your company does. The other thing I didn't put in that I think is great is I try to think of it as if somebody doesn't know what JAG is, when someone says, well, you know, it's the place where, and then fill in the blank. You know, Metzger would probably be like, it's the place that charges $1,000 for a birthday party. But when I hear people say like, oh, it's the place that just loves kids. It's the place where everybody gets to do gymnastics. No, I don't want to be on the band connection, sorry. Do. Yay, we're back. So why is branding important? Well, first of all, it improves your word of mouth. And anybody who goes to any of these conferences, reads any business books, we all know how important word of mouth is. We're not entirely sure how to measure it or what exactly it is or what exactly drives it. We try to figure that out. But we know that 92% of people trust recommendations from their friends and family over any kind of advertising. So you can print all the cute little glossy postcards and banners and stuff, and carry on and do that. And it's important to do those things. But in the last analysis, if Mrs. Smith tells Mrs. Jones, you suck, you can't print enough postcards to convince her otherwise. So it's really making sure that people are talking positively about you. Also, I'm fundamentally cheap, and so I like to think of advertising as a tax for having a bad brand. If you have a great brand, you don't have to spend a lot of money on advertising. I'll tell you, I spend very, very little money on advertising, very little. We'll take an ad out at a silent auction, what are those books they make you, buy. Something like that. I've never taken out LA Parent, I've never done a magazine ad, I've never done a Yellow Pages ad, I've never done anything like that. Because I just think that it's useless in what we do. It's good to let people know we're here, but they're probably not going to make a buying decision based on seeing an ad in a newspaper about us. They're going to ask their friends. So really good branding is hard to copy, and that's a good thing because you want to be unique in business. This isn't middle school. We don't want to all try to fit in. We want to be different from the guy next door who's selling essentially the same product, the swim lesson, the gymnastics lesson. Branding says something about who your customer thinks they are, not who they think you are. I mean, it is who they think you are, but it's also who they think they are. I'm the kind of person who drives a hybrid. I'm the kind of person who sends my kid to private school. I'm the kind of person who is conscientious and clips coupons. I'm the kind of person who goes to church. We all have the things that, who we are and what we label ourselves. I'm a Red Sox fan. Go Sox. And those are part of our brand. And so when we can match our brand to what somebody thinks about themselves, they start to see themselves as part of our community and part of what it is that we do. But also, it's about who they hope to be. This is why you see a lot of 30-somethings riding around in BMWs, and you're like, seriously, you make 30 grand a year. Why are you driving a BMW? Well, because that's who I want to be. But there's something to that. So, and this is where you get into the aspirational stuff of the kids and, be a champion, all that stuff. It's about who do you want to be? If you're going to come to my swim program, who do you want to be? Parent, do you want to be the parent whose kid doesn't know how to swim at the swim party? Of course not. Nobody wants to be that parent. Get your kid in the pool. Do you want to be the person who's negligent and didn't teach their kid to swim? Yeah, it's interesting. I know you hear Jewish. And one of the few laws in Judaism is that you must teach your children to swim. Yeah, because it's considered a life-saving element. I graduated from Columbia University. You have to take a swim test to graduate. If you cannot swim across the pool, you cannot graduate. Yeah. So, old-fashioned school. So branding creates a higher perceived value, which is fantastic because it does my very favorite thing, lets you charge more money. Think it's not a big deal? Look at this statistic. Assuming your volume remains stable, a 1% price increase improves operating profits by 8%. Now, even for the math phobic in here, that's pretty impressive. You can do that math pretty quickly and see how much more money you can make if you are able to have a premium. And that's 3 times more than getting a 1% increase in volume and not being able to charge a premium price. So before I talk about how to create a brand, I want to talk a little bit about how not to create a brand. Don't copy others. Steal from others, like an artist. It's a great book, by the way, if you've not read it, Steal Like an Artist. Very, very good book. You can lift things from them. You can lift concepts, ideas, feelings, but do not copy somebody's brand exactly because the chances of it really fitting, even if you think, Marianne, Tina, and I have a very similar demographic. They're my New York soul sisters. They are dealing with the same kind of clients that I deal with in Los Angeles. But there's still things that we can't do in LA that wouldn't go over with our clients that might go over fine with their clients. Patty Comera, dear, dear friend of mine. Patty, I think, is brilliant. If I offered a Daddy and me tea party for Christmas, I'd be beheaded by my clients because I have 2 mommies and I have people that are Jewish and Hindu. I mean, we're a very multicultural place, so there are things that we can't do that other clubs can do as part of what their brand is. Oh, look. Blackness, yay. Okay, so there's a gap between what we sell and what customers want to buy. And that's where branding comes in, is to fill that gap. We might think we're selling swim lessons, but what a parent really wants to buy, this is just a short list of what a parent wants to buy. Yeah, swimming skills are in there too, but they want to buy fun and safety and character and development and dreams and all sorts of great stuff. They want to buy the effect. They don't want to buy the thing. Same thing for my gymnastics people. We think we sell cartwheels. No, we're selling all of these things. So that's what you want to focus on in your branding. This is why, and I don't know which speeches have been given in which rooms because I'm in the other room, but Lynn spoke a lot about, when people are doing their marketing and they talk about our 25,000 square foot facility, our, Aussie bed trampolines. Okay, we all know square footage because we deal with it all the time. A lot of people are like, what does that even mean, 25,000 square feet? Okay, whatever. What's an Aussie bed trampoline? I don't care. What's a saltwater pool? That's nice, good for you. These are not things that people necessarily, unless they're in the industry, know and value. What they value is, this is a great program that's going to develop your kid's character. We're going to teach her how to deal with frustration. We're going to teach her how to be a leader. That's what they want to hear. That's what they want to buy. And P.S., we're going to teach her cartwheel or the breaststroke. If you take nothing else from this topic today, nothing else, please do not try to please everyone. I love to please everyone. I went to Catholic school for 13 years. I desperately want you all to like me. I really want to be a good person. I really want everybody to be like, Anne's awesome. But I can't do that in my business and in my branding because everybody loves me, I stand for nothing. I don't want everybody else to hate me either, but I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And by I mean Jag. Y'all still are going to love me, even if you don't love my business, okay? So the picture, there's a story of a cat and a dog are going into town with their donkey. And the cat's riding on the donkey, and people walk by, and they say, oh, that's really not fair. Why does the cat get to ride on the donkey? And so the cat gets down, and the dog gets up on the donkey, and they continue on. And other group of people come by, and they say, well, that donkey looks awfully tired. Maybe I should get off there. And so the dog gets down, so then they're walking with just nobody on the donkey, and then somebody comes by and says, wow, the donkey's looking really grim. He's looking pretty tired. So the cat and the dog pick up the donkey, start carrying the donkey across the bridge, and the donkey falls into the water and drowns. And the moral of the story is if you try to please everybody, you're going to lose your ass. Okay? Do not please everyone. All right, so these are 20 quick ways I came up with to think about your branding, how to create a hot brand. There are certainly many, many more. And again, some will work for you. Some you'll be like, whatever, Ann. First thing is decide on a relevancy strategy. And by relevancy, I mean there's really two ways to be relevant in the market. The first one is to get market share, get more kids, so you are the only brand because you put everybody else out of business, which is Godspeed to you, good. Or create a new category. One of the, everybody has these folkloric tales of growing up, and I was a kid growing up in northern Ohio, and we were playing miniature golf with some kids in my neighborhood, and I was the youngest kid in my neighborhood always by several years, and so I was getting creamed, miniature golf. I was just losing by so much it wasn't even funny. So we were going into the final hole, but I insisted because I was very competitive. What's the score? What's everyone's score? What do y'all have? And I had the highest score, and I'm like, all right, I'm winning. I have the highest score. One of the boys in the neighborhood was like, you are an idiot. You are not winning. The lowest score wins in golf. I'm like, yeah, not under my rules. and it is an attitude I've taken through my life that served me well. I created my own category when I started JAG, Luxury Children's Programming in West LA. I'm the top one because I'm the only one. And I say it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but if you can make yourself the only one in the category, Jeff Metzger, who is my hero, I love this man so much, he is in his own category. There is nobody who's doing what he's doing. And his program's great, he's enormously successful, but he's also the only one in his category. There's not another Kids First Sports Center in Cincinnati. So if you want that experience, where else are you gonna go? So the more you can create it so that you are the only one in your category, go, do it. Be mindful of who your customers are and most importantly, who they aren't. Again, my favorite philosopher, Seth Godin, everyone is not your customer. And that seems counterintuitive because, but we want to sell things. We want to sell them to everybody. No, we don't necessarily. Because you're going to run into people, if they don't value your brand and what you're doing, those are the people that sit in your bleachers and bitch about you to everybody else, who then is like, yeah, I don't like Ann either. This is awful. And we run into this a lot in competitive world. We do not do an elite program. And we'll get kids who get pretty good. And the parents get stars in their eyes, and they're going to the Olympics. I did the math. You're more likely to get hit by an asteroid than represent the U.S. on the women's team for Olympics, for gymnastics. But okay, good for you. And so they want to go. They want, we want to homeschool. We want this. We need a, coach that travels with just our kids to Texas. And I'm like, yeah, you're not getting it here. Okay, let's help you find a space that's going to work for you. Not because I don't want their money or I don't care about their child. This is not the brand of gymnastics that I do, and so we're going to constantly be frustrated. And worse, their word of mouth is going to be less good about me because they're frustrated. So you can't be everything to everyone. Everyone is not your customer. So who is your customer? These are some questions you want to think about, and I'm sure you all done this. You know where they live, you know where they work. But really, it's called creating a customer persona, and it's kind of corny, but open a bottle of wine and have some fun with it. You can sit down and say, okay, who's my customer persona? Mine is a woman named Caroline. She has 3 children. She drives a Lexus 450 RX that she turns in every 2 years to get a new one. She goes to Maui on vacation with her husband once a year, and she goes to Europe with her extended family on a cruise in August. And her children attend the local private school. They also ski for a week in Aspen in February. I mean, I get as specific as possible. What does this woman do? What, in one persona she works, maybe in the other one she doesn't, but to understand then what her struggles are, to get in her head. Now, I am lucky in that I'm kind of, not anymore, my kids are too big, but I sort of was my own customer, so I really understood what I wanted. Some of you, that's a little bit harder, especially if you're a guy, because mostly the moms are making the buying decisions, and there are things that, you look at a leotard with sparklies all over it that's $56, and you're like, oh, hell no. And your wife's like, oh, hell yes. Yeah, because your values are different on what you're going to buy, but you have to get inside the head of that woman who's making the purchasing decision if that's who you have as a customer. Think about what they want. What are they looking for? What are going to be their objections about your service? The objection almost always about my service is price, so I don't talk about it. Makes it easier. But understand, what are their pain points? What's hard for them? We developed a really, really lucrative camp program off of understanding the pain point of private schools in LA. The more you pay, the less you go. These children have off every other week for some sort of, polka dot day or something. I mean, they're off all the time. So we developed a camp program that's totally flexible. If your school is out, our camp is in. We will run a camp for you. But that's a pain point for the parent who has to go to work and doesn't, what are you supposed to do with your kid on a random Tuesday when school's closed? What do they value? If you're helpful in solving your customers' problems, if you give them a solution, they're going to love your brand. It's a wonderful book called Why We Buy. I forget who wrote it, but you don't need to read it because this is really what it's about. There are 2 reasons why people buy things: to solve a problem or create a feeling. And when you can do both of those things, you're going to be able to charge a premium. And you can think about this on your plane ride home. Anything you want to buy, it falls into 1 or 2 or both of those categories. Solves a problem or creates a feeling. This is why I'm not going to spend a huge premium amount on car wax. I don't care. Just get my car waxed. Now somebody who's a car enthusiast, they're going to create the feeling of I'm taking care of my car. They're going to buy the top shelf car wax. Women's shoes, guess what? Metzger's up back there. He's like, you buy shoes to cover your feet, Ann. What the hell? And I'm like, no, you don't. You buy shoes because they're pretty and they make you feel special, and that's why the shoe manufacturers can get a couple $100s a pair out of shoes for women. So be the solution they're looking for. Seriously, Ann? Wow, okay. I don't know how to do that. But that's a good tip for next time. See, learning experience for me too. Meet their psychological needs. Meet what it is that they want. A good way to look at it is I'm the kind of person who. You know, I'm the kind of person who drives a hybrid. I do, I drive a hybrid. And that's important to me. I'm the kind of person that sent my kids to private school and private university because education is really important to me. I'm not the kind of person who put my kids in designer clothing because that was not important to me. Metzger's the kind of person who drives a Porsche, much to his wife's dismay, because driving fast is important to him. So we all have the things that are important to us and who we are and who we want to be. And when you understand that about your client, again, you're going to have a stronger brand. It's all about closing that gap of who they are today and who they want to be tomorrow. And this is really important. Nobody wants to buy a 1/4-inch drill. What they want is a 1/4-inch hole. That's branding. All right, writing a positioning statement. This is very somewhat academic-y and a little bit boring, but I just want to go over it because it's kind of central to the notion of branding. You'll get all of these slides, so you don't have to feel like you have to write down really fast. But you want to write a positioning statement about what your brand is and what it does. And this is ours. It has way too many words on the slide, so I will read it for you. But it's for families who send or who can afford to send their kids to private independent schools and who insist on only the best for their kids. JAG Gym is a gymnastics-based children's activity center that is the 4 seasons of children's programming. Unlike other gymnastics schools, JAG offers ultimate flexibility, impeccable service, and uses gymnastics as an educational tool for foundations for athletic and life success. That's what we do. That's our brand position. Now, I don't have this posted on my wall, obviously. It's not my mission statement, but it's my brand position. And so when we think about branding, the kinds of things that we do are geared towards these things. Our gym is cleaned 7 days a week by a professional cleaning service. The amount of money I spend on cleaning makes me lose oxygen to my brain. But it's essential that the place is pristine. We replace any mat that is torn. If I see somebody, this poor son of a gun, put duct tape on a mat, you would have thought he beheaded a puppy in front of me. I mean, I nearly lost my mind. I was like, we do not duct tape mats here. You know, but that's my brand. That's what I do. I grew up in a gym and all the mats were duct taped. It was totally fine. But I was in Ohio, and people in Ohio, they like duct tape. It was fine. But ultimate flexibility. We have an unlimited makeup policy. We don't count it. I don't care how many classes you missed. If you told me you missed a class, take a class. I trust you. It's fine. Do we have a couple people who abuse it? Of course we do, but there's always a couple of rotten apples in every barrel. You just ignore them and move on. I don't charge a registration fee. I don't charge a registration fee not because I don't like money. I do like collecting money, but I don't like to create barriers for people to do business with me. You know, and this is the most obnoxious one. We have valet parking. True story. Now, parking in Los Angeles is difficult, and when you're a mom with 2 or 3 kids trying to get out of the car, if I didn't have valet parking, that would be a major barrier for people to do business with me, but it would also go against my brand. You know, I view very much if you come to JAG, it's like coming to my home. I want you to feel very welcomed. I don't want you to feel stressed. I want you to be very happy. So we do valet parking, which is also free. We don't allow them to pay for the parking. Most of us are past the stage of naming things, but when you're naming programs or if you're reconsidering your name, this is a hard one for me, naming I'm not very good at, but you want to be catchy and smart in naming your brand. Some of the things to consider: being distinctive, being brief, being appropriate, and so on. You don't want to end up with, you know, an acronym that spells ass or something like that. You know, you want to just think it through. I mean, there was, okay, so JAG stands for Josephson Academy of Gymnastics. Worst name in the world. There's so many syllables I can barely say, and it's my name, right? And so fortunately, you know, cute enough JAG Gym, it has some alliteration to it. It's fine, so that's what we go by. But I'm going through a divorce. Well, my maiden name is Fell. If I did Fell Academy of Gymnastics, that would not look so cute on a T-shirt. So, you know, you want the name to sound likable. My very favorite brand name of right now, yeah, I have favorite brand names. I really need to get out more, but is Skinny Girl. That is such a great brand name. For those of you who don't know Skinny Girl, they do like Margarita Mix and all this, you know, Cosmo Mix. Now you're learning even more about my life. But what a great name for a brand, because it says exactly what it is. It says exactly, it, you know, gives a great brand promise. Who doesn't want to be known as a skinny girl? Yay. All right, be different than others in your field. You can differentiate. Think about differentiation as trying to marry two things that don't ordinarily go together, like a Reese's peanut butter cup. You know, you got peanut butter on my chocolate, you got chocolate on my peanut butter. And that's what we did. We literally took the Four Seasons, which is my favorite hotel, and married it to gymnastics. You know, it's an unusual combination, but for us it works. Other ways to differentiate, you can be a reversal brand like IKEA. Here's this little wrench in no directions, go build your furniture, good luck. But it's inexpensive and it's decent stuff. I still have some IKEA stuff in my house from when, you know, my college days, the stuff lasts. Southwest, you know, we promise you absolutely nothing and we deliver it every time. For those of you who don't know, it's a regional airline. They line you up like cattle, they shove you in the thing and off you go to San Francisco, but they're on time. They will not give you, you know, maybe they'll give you a soda, but it's like prearranged, like here it is, do you want Coke? Or Coke. You know, but it delivers its promise of being low cost and efficient. Breakaway brands are companies that do things that turn the market upside down. Airbnb is a great one right now. They're losing their mind in New York City over Airbnb. The whole hotel industry is just up in arms because this is really cutting into the tax basis there. Kirkland Signature, those of you that are Costco shoppers, you know, Kirkland Signature is the generic brand of Costco, and yet it offers some of the finest champagne and olive oil that you can buy under a generic label. Like, who would think that? But it's a very, very successful brand. And then you can be a hostile brand that polarizes people. Probably not so good for what we do, but when you think about like a Harley Davidson or a Red Bull, you know, Red Bull doesn't care that moms don't want their college students mixing it with vodka and drinking it. Because guess what? College students mix it with vodka and drink it, and so they're selling a lot of Red Bull. Like, they're not interested. I'm not their market. You know, you might see this, I guess, maybe in some of like the elite gymnastics schools or swim clubs that are preparing kids. You know, they'll have no problem. I mean, an elite gymnastics school, I don't know the swim industry, will have no problem being like, no, your daughter is going to be too tall or is too fat and will never be an elite gymnast, so she doesn't get to be in this training group. Like, that's okay. Or go down the street, we're not interested. So that would be an example of a hostile brand. But at the same time, you have to remain relevant to your client base. So differentiate, but be relevant. You know, snorkeling for bulldogs. Now that's different. It's not really relevant though. I don't think you really have a big market there. So don't get so crazy with your differentiation that you forget to be relevant. And you become relevant by listening, anticipating needs, and adapting. I think Amazon.com has done a great job with this. You know, started off as the world's largest bookstore, and now it's the world's largest store, and you can get anything you want from Amazon. But it hasn't fundamentally changed its brand, which is the promise to deliver you something quickly and efficiently. And it also is responsible for my entire life. I love them so much. Be inspirational. You know, Tom's shoes. How many of you are familiar with Tom's shoes? Okay, so they're these kind of ugly, boxy looking shoes, to be totally honest. But every time you buy a pair, they give a pair to a child in Africa who has no shoes. Okay, well, I have like 6 pair. I mean, because that's such a cool message. It's such a great thing. Like, I love that idea that, you know, while I'm buying shoes, I can do something charitable. So, Starbucks. You know, I love Starbucks. I'm a huge Starbucks loyalist. I'm a huge Starbucks loyalist because I started going there when I heard that they gave all their employees health insurance at 20 hours a week. And I was like, wow, I want to support a company that does that. That's awesome. They have a college program now where their baristas can go to college for almost nothing. And you know, I'm the kind of person who wants to support a company like that. So be inspirational. You know, we do a partner with a company called Baby to Baby, or a charity called Baby to Baby, where people can bring their gently used like car seats and cribs and baby clothes and stuff to give to families transitioning from homeless shelters into life. And, you know, it's a great thing that we do, and people are really delighted. That what are they going to do with their crib anyway? They're happy to get it out of their house, and, you know, it comes to JAG, and then the nice people from Baby to Baby come, and we've gotten people who see us on Baby to Baby website, and they come and dump their stuff off, and they're like, oh, wow, my kid doesn't come here. This is awesome. And then they sign up for classes. It's a win-win. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Great book called Start With Why. Have any of you read it, Simon Sinek? Yeah, good for you. Great book. I strongly, strongly recommend it. And he talks a lot about, we start with the what we're selling. I'm going to sell gymnastics lessons. I'm opening a gymnastics school. I'm going to sell gymnastics lessons. And what he says is that's not the way to do it. You start with the why first. Why do you want to sell gymnastics lessons? So our why is we believe in doing good things for kids and helping families develop a community that raises happy, healthy, smart children with good character. That's our why. We happen to do that why by teaching cartwheels. So when you have a strong why, that's, again, where you're really going to start to make your branding. So inspirational brands, they show the customer who they are, they help them do good, they have a really strong point of view, and they have strong values. If you come into my gym, unless you're blind, truly, within 4 seconds, you will understand who we are and what we stand for. Tina's been to my gym, right? It's not difficult to look on the wall and get what JAG stands for. You know, we have big character value posters all over the place and, you know, all sorts of positive quotes, like, you know, gigantically blown up, because that's what's important to me and what I want our brand to be. Talked a little bit about already being the best in the class and striving to be the brand. You know, examples, best in class, I mean, Apple, Coke, I felt very conflicted about using McDonald's, but it is best in its class, even though it's not a class I really approve of. Google, Toyota, these are companies that have really consistently stayed the best in their class. But even cooler is when you get to be the brand. You know, I didn't know until recently that a jacuzzi was a brand name. I thought it was just another name for a hot tub, but it turns out it's a brand name. You know, when somebody refers to, I'm going to Google this, like the people at branding at Google are like, yeah. And so what I want to hear is people, I don't want to hear people do gymnastics, I want to hear they do JAG. That's when I know we're doing a good job with our branding. Tell a compelling story. And if you don't have one, get one, write one, figure one out. It needs to be true and human and reach people, but you want to tell the story of why it is that you exist. Why do you do what you do? How did your company come into existence? What changes have happened over time that maybe have led you in a different direction of what you do? You know, ours was pretty easy. I grew up a really terrible gymnast, but loved the sport. I was that kid who just, every coach was like, oh God, you suck and you have so much heart, and if I could take your heart and put it in this kid who's talented, wow, we would have a good thing going, and how come your knees don't straighten? But I loved this sport. I stayed with it. I learned how to coach and judge. I did it all through college. But then I left it very much back in college, went on, worked in children's television. I'm partially responsible for Barney the Dinosaur, sorry. And I got my master's degree and started my family. And when my youngest daughter was going into kindergarten, 2 of my kids happened to be doing gymnastics at a local club. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do next. And this club was like not anything like the club I grew up in. I grew up in this very positive, supportive, you know, good old Ohio club. And this club, like the kids all like had eyes like this and looked terrified, and the coaches screamed, and the owner would come out on the floor and scream, and everybody screamed, and it was really intense and really scary. But I would find myself sitting there and telling parents, no, gymnastics is great for kids. Now let me explain to you this. So this is what it means to be a level 4, and then if they learn this, they get to move to. I'm like, why am I doing this for somebody else? You know, I should do this. Somebody should well, it started with somebody should open a gym that's much better than this. And I was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm that somebody. And that's why I opened it. And people, you know, often sort of would kid me when I first opened, like, I can't believe you opened a gymnastics school for your kid. No, that would be really stupid. No, but I opened a gymnastics school because I saw a hole in the market that my kids weren't getting, and realized that there would be a demand in the area that I lived in for a style of gymnastics club that I could offer. That's our story. It's also really kind of a sneaky way to be nasty to the club down the street, but that's another story. Anyway, so how do you develop your story? Here are some questions to ask yourself. You can all read, so I'm not going to read to you, but you want to think about really what's going to be a compelling story for your customer, not for you. This is where I often see elite coaches. I've had the privilege of having 2 Olympians work for me. Neither work for me currently, and neither of them were particularly effective workers, because they didn't understand that once they, you know, introduced themselves to 3-year-old Sally's mom and said, oh, you know, I'm so-and-so and I was an Olympian, that mom's like, wow, cool. How did Sally do in class? they don't, it's not going to take you very long. It's not that interesting. They're like, okay, that's good. And how does this affect me? So you need to make sure, again, like coaches, just because you're a great athlete doesn't mean you're a great coach. Coaching and teaching are very different things. Now I'm on another topic altogether. Shut up, Ann. Okay. Be authentic. Be authentic in all of your message. You have to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. You have to have policies that match your product. Sun Chips, is an earthy, crunchy, potato chippy kind of company, and they're entirely solar powered. They walk their talk. Serving a larger purpose like a Tom's, or having a lot of integrity like Johnson & Johnson. How many of you remember the Tylenol story, several decades ago? Okay, a few of you do. I think it was in Chicago, some crazy person laced arsenic or something into a couple of bottles of Tylenol, and a few people died, and several more were quite ill. And Johnson & Johnson, before the FDA said anything, any government agency, they pulled every bottle of Tylenol off the market in the world and kept it off until they figured out exactly what happened, whatever. The fact that the Tylenol brand still exists today and owns its market is an incredible testament to a company that acted with absolute integrity. And so that's the kind of integrity, heaven forbid you have a sex scandal or something, terrible goes. You act with absolute integrity every single time. It was a haul for them to get back, but they got back. All right, be aligned and consistent with your message. Everything, every visual, every interaction, your bathrooms, whatever, it has to match what your brand promises. Everybody in your company is part of the branding department. There is no branding department. Everybody is the branding department, which means you really need to train your staff. There's one area for those of you that do budgeting that you're looking at for next year. Look at trying to beef up your staff training. It will pay you back inordinately to get everybody on the same page. My litmus test for are we doing a good job, and I don't know that it's a particularly effective one, but it's the one I use, is how we answer the phone at JAG. We have a very, very specific way, and if any of you want to call today, this afternoon, whenever, and see if it is answered correctly, let me know. I'll be curious. But you have to answer it. Thank you for calling JAG. This is Ann. How may I help you? You have to smile when you answer the phone. You have to thank them. You have to tell them your name and how may I help you. And it's a simple thing, but it's sort of like, again, maybe this is the 13 years of Catholic school and you had to wear the uniform and the uniform had to be perfect, and I never really understood why until I grew up and was like, oh, discipline. If your uniform's clean and pressed and you're ready for school, you're a little bit different than coming to school in your pajamas. If you answer the phone professionally, already you're a little bit different about how you're approaching the person on the other end of the phone. There's nothing worse than calling a business and having the person be like, yeah, it drives me crazy. So that's my thing. Be a thought leader in your industry. This is a really great way to increase your branding. Blog, speak, do media stuff, get involved in your community. Is Mike Williams in here? Mike is a great example of somebody who's so heavily involved in his community in Bakersfield that you would have to live under a rock not to know who the man is and not to have great esteem for what he does for his community. So of course, when you're going to sign up your kid for gym or swim, well, first of all, I think he bought the whole market of Bakersfield, so I don't know that anybody could go anywhere. But even if somebody could, they wouldn't, because he's such a pillar of that community. So get out there, speak, blog. I have a blog. If you want to follow it, it's, I don't know, just Google Jag Gym blog. It'll come up. I don't know the exact address. I'm sorry. But what I love about the blog, in addition to that it's really helped me exercise some of my ideas and work on my writing, is it's a great way for me to communicate with not just the whole gymnastics community, but specifically the members of Jag Gym about certain things that we do. For instance, I recently had to fire a team coach. And, as we all know in employment law stuff, you can't explain really why you fired somebody. So I was able to write a blog about, before you storm out on the floor and scream at me, understand, take a deep breath, understand perspective, seek to understand before you get angry with people, and turned it around at the end and said, and we need to do that with our clients as well. So it's a great opportunity for you to get the sort of softer messages of what you want to say about your company by blogging. All of your marketing has to reinforce your brand promise. So if your promise is that you teach, safe and fun swim lessons, that's what your marketing materials should look like. If our marketing materials always look very clean and well done, I pay a lot for them to be done because I can't purport to be this great Four Seasons of children's activities and then use neon paper and black, photocopied ditto sheet kind of stuff to hand out to the clients. So you'll see this, okay, I'm totally gonna learn how to do that whole shutting off the internet thing. Apple's a great example of this. I think Nike's probably the greatest example of all. Every time I see one of their ads, I want to go running until I actually get outside and start running, and then I want to go back inside and eat cake and watch TV. But, they're so inspirational. And then Starbucks, I think, does a nice job. Their whole thing is about connection, and I think they do a nice job with their ads of connecting. Be braggy and retell your successes. Find ways to talk about the kid you got the scholarship for, or, I don't know, whatever other great things are going on. Wonderful example. Do any of you know the story of Joshy's giraffe in the Ritz-Carlton? It's a great example of branding. So Joshy was on vacation with his family. I believe it was in Florida, and they were staying at the Ritz-Carlton, and he left his beloved Lovey stuffed giraffe behind. Now, any of you who have had a child who've had a stuffed Lovey that they carry everywhere know this is nothing to mess with. I mean, this is serious stuff. So father is at the airport, realizes it's happened, calls the Ritz. They're like, no problem, we'll find it, we'll ship it back to you. And so the father explains to his son, your giraffe is staying for a couple extra days of vacation. He'll be home soon. So the kid calms down, they get on the plane, they go home. Well, not only did the Ritz-Carlton send the giraffe back on their own dime, they took the giraffe around the resort and took pictures of him by the pool and getting a massage and enjoying dinner. And so they included a little scrapbook that they made for Joshy all about his giraffe's adventures. Now, right? Like, okay, as if you needed a reason to want to stay at the Ritz-Carlton. But don't you want to go stay there now? I mean, don't you get that their brand promise of absolute impeccable customer service it's there? I mean, that's it. That's the brand story. So if you're so compelled after this very moving discussion to go read about branding, you're going to see a lot that's written really about products. And we're service organizations, and so service branding is a little bit different in that you really need to focus around your people, your process, and the physical evidence of your brand. So when you're thinking about branding, you need to think about how do your people carry forth your brand. What are your processes like? Your registration process, your drop policies, your refund policies. Are they consistent with the brand that you want to have? This is where we came up with getting rid of the reg fee and doing unlimited makeups, because it wasn't consistent with our brand to tell people no, that they couldn't do things. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee. The truth of the matter is we have a whenever you want money-back guarantee. I'm not going to fight with you. If this isn't working for you, I don't need your $200. Please take it. It's fine. I'm so sorry. I hope you'll come back. It is, for us, that's what works with our brand, and it's what our customers demand and expect. And then the physical stuff. If your pool water looks kind of cloudy, it's probably not a really good thing for the sparkly, shiny swim school. If your mats have seen better days or have fungus growing on them, true story, it's probably not wise to boast about how clean your facility is. Be nimble. Be ready to pivot. Who would have thought Blockbuster would go out of business? And yet, there it is. I'll give you the best example of pivoting I ever had is how soccer changed my team program. So my problem holding kids in the gym has nothing to do with other gyms. It has to do with soccer. How many of you hate soccer? So I started to think about, why am I losing kids to soccer? And I decided it was because on Tuesday you sign up for soccer and you get a uniform, and then on Saturday you go and you play a game. Here's the gymnastics model. Well, come to our gym for 3 years. Maybe, just maybe, then you'll be good enough to go to pre-team, where you'll stay for another year. And then and only then, maybe we'll let you compete. And if you compete and you're in Southern California and you don't have a 38 all-around, you're not getting on the podium. So, hey, isn't this fun? No, I'm going to play soccer. I don't want to do this. This isn't fun. So we lowered the barrier on our competitive team, where if you want to be on our competitive team, you're on our competitive team. And I partnered with USA IGC, which is another organizing body for gymnastics, and wrote for them the copper level of gymnastics, which the tumbling pass is, even swim people who don't know anything about gymnastics, is cartwheel, cartwheel. There's your tumbling pass, boys and girls. It is so simple. It is so user-friendly. The kids still learn. They have to strive and learn how to do something, which to me is the whole reason why I think they should compete anyway. It's about setting goals, and it's about learning how to deal with failure and frustration and all that good stuff. And so we give them that experience that pretty much within 6 months, I can't quite do 3 days like soccer, but within 6 months they can go out and they can compete at least on a couple of events. And so they get the dignity of being a competitive athlete. And on the happier side, it made my team program go from 35 kids to 135 kids. Now, I have a facility that can support that. If you have a smaller club, you might be like, oh, no, 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 please no. But it worked for us, and it's been a great way of keeping those 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. We all try to strive to keep in the gym. It's helped us keep them. You want to be careful not to overextend or cheapen your brand. Now, if my brand promise for my competitive team was create an Olympian out of your community, this would have been a terrible decision to make my team program like this, but that has never been my brand promise, so it worked okay. I'll give you a couple of examples of some of my real great failures, though. JAG Spanish and JAG Art. Oh yeah, true stories, both of them. So embarrassing, so terrible, so outside our wheelhouse. I don't even know how I got there. This one is also embarrassing and frustratingly so because it's within our wheelhouse, but we cannot get a dance program off the ground. And the reason why is our gym space is gorgeous, and the space that we have relegated to dance looks like a broom closet, comparatively speaking. And so it doesn't match the brand promise. Nobody wants to come to us for dance, especially when I have Debbie Allen around the corner. And now the real good news is apparently I'm getting that witch from Dance Moms is moving to LA. Yeah, and now I almost feel compelled to open a dance program just to save the children. But it doesn't meet my brand promise, and so until I'm able to figure that out and fix that, it's pointless for me to offer it. Discounting. Have you all heard Lynn's speech on pricing already? It's hard for me to know. Okay, so she did an excellent talk about pricing, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But one of the things I do want you to always think about when you're discounting is, what does it do to your brand? And find ways to discount that are compatible with the brand. So I'm a huge fan of that idea of the charity thing, give X dollars to this and you can have a discounted class or whatever. That's fantastic, because that's not going to cheapen your brand, that's going to strengthen your brand. But I worry, in twilight times I think work really well. I worry a little bit about when people start to mess with what sort of their core fundamentals are. Like, for example, in our gym, we do a medal system for our kids. We give them medals that are clanging around all the time. I mean, it's like a cacophony in there. But they go through and like karate, they earn medals for each event. Now, I could offer reduced class programming where the kids weren't part of the medal system, but I think those kids would cry when other children were clanging around with medals, and it would cheapen a part of who we are at our core. So just be very cautious with that. And finally, measuring your branding. How do you measure your branding? The truth is, I don't know. I really don't. But here's a couple of things that I think might be indicators of if your branding is working. If your clients are your ideal clients, if they're a good fit, if it's like when you're dating and you're dating somebody who's a good fit, if it feels like that with your clients, that's your branding is working. If people get who you are and what you're doing, the more, I get very few people now who want to come to my gym who want elite training because they know that that's not what I do. They understand the reputation for what I do. If you're spending less money on advertising, and by less I mean almost none, and if your revenue is still growing. And then finally, if people talk about your brand as a person, and this goes with your staff as well as your clients. One of my very proud moments is we were sitting in a management meeting, and I was just sort of sitting back and trying to let them puzzle something through. And I kept hearing them talk like, well, yeah, but if we do that, that's not good for JAG, so let's do this instead. And, well, this would be better for JAG. And I thought, wow, if a Martian dropped from the sky right now, they would be like, oh, these people all care about this person, JAG. I can't wait to meet him. He sounds awesome. And that's when you really know you have a brand, is when people think of your brand as almost another living entity. But I think the best measure is, will they miss you when you're gone? If you closed your gym, your swim school, your dance school, your arts program tomorrow, will people pull up in the parking lot and go, oh, bummer? Or will they start sobbing uncontrollably because like this big part of their child's life is now void? And you all have the power to do that. You're here, you care enough to learn. You probably are already doing it. The idea now is you just want to do it so much better that you can charge more than the next guy. Thank you so much.